One of those workouts where you're struggling internally. Right when the music stops, gets fucking awkward. Love that. Okay. How's it going, guys? We got legs today. We're starting here with calves. Now we're doing this Precor. Yeah, got it right. Okay. Precor calf machine, standing calf machine here. The great thing about this machine, I love it. Fly going in my mouth. Off to a great start. The great thing about this machine is it's got this pad here, mainly to press your hips against. Now, why I like that is because it's going to allow me to be more stable through the movement. Because oftentimes when we do like a standing calf raise on just your traditional standing calf raise machine, sometimes you may notice like the heavier you go, the more your hips kind of float around and you got to stabilize using your core. Now, the great thing with this is I can just press my hips as hard as I can up against this this pad here, and it's going to keep my hips locked, but it actually kind of goes down far enough that it's going to keep some of my knees, my legs and my knees locked, because it's going to come close to my knee joint. That's kind of why I like this particular machine. Now, my focus on this exercise, I've told you guys this 100 times. I'm starting with calves. Two main reasons. One, it's going to allow me to create more flexibility in my actual ankle joint. So when I get into movements like my squats, leg presses, things like that, I can get real deep and I don't have to worry about my heel elevating off the pad. Because the whole goal is I want to try to focus on getting as deep as possible so my quads can get as much length or stretch. Two, the great thing is, because I'm starting with calves, generally whatever exercise you're starting with, obviously you're going to have more energy in the beginning of your workout. You're going to have more energy to put forth more strength to actually push heavier load. So I start with calves because I just have more energy and I can sort of focus more of my attention on my calves. If I save them towards the end of the workout, I'm more likely probably not going to do them. But if I save them and I end up doing them, I'm not going to have anywhere near the amount of energy that I would in the beginning. And therefore, I'm probably not going to get the most out of the calf movements that I choose. So starting with calves is definitely crucial for those two main reasons. Again, one is just to get more range, flexibility, mobility going. Two, because I have more energy and I can push harder. So we're on our last set here. We're doing 4 working sets total. Now, I'm kind of going by the science where I'm only working in that partial or half range. So I'm going all the way down, getting that deep stretch, but I'm only coming up halfway. Okay, so I'm not worried about the top half where I'm trying to shorten the calf fully. I'm literally just focused on getting as deep of a stretch in my calf and then just coming up halfway. The great thing is, literature shows that one, that's actually more effective than doing full range. And two, I like it because, you know, we can go a little heavier, maybe bring our ego into this. I'm just kidding. We want to leave the ego at the door, but we can go a bit heavier for sure because we're only doing half the range. All right. Last set. Okay. That's it. We're going to move on. We're going to do some hack squats. And then we're going to do squat press, like a leg squat press thing. I think that's what it's called. Can't think right now. I'm lightheaded. Okay. See you at the hack squat. So the main focus for today's workout, like always, focus, intensity, form, but most importantly for today, like I said earlier, I was kidding around, but we're actually leaving the ego out and we're focusing primarily on the range of motion for all of our movements today. For most of them, like ones that we can knowingly get as deep as possible. That's my goal today, is to just focus on deep deep range of motion, getting that stretch. So if you have a hack squat at your gym and you tend to bottom out too early and you kind of feel like I could probably get deeper, great tip is to use these yoga blocks like you just saw. And I'm using these underneath the shoulder rest here. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to allow me to get deeper in the actual movement. Okay, so it's increasing my range of motion by placing these blocks here. It's no different than me putting something under my feet. It's just easier to have something here, which is more comfortable than to place something on the platform. Some people do, but it can slide down obviously because of gravity, whereas these are going to be held in place. They're super light, and even if they slip out when you're done, it's not going to hurt your foot if it falls on it. Okay. Boom. 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 Okay. I'm gonna stop there. Again, those two are just warm-up sets, but we're gonna go heavier. I think we're gonna start with 4 plates. We're just gonna get right into it. No messing around. Mm. Mm. That was working set 1. I think we're gonna stay there. Definitely for a second set. Again, my goal today is just focus on the depth, focus on the range. I could probably go heavier, and who knows, I might on the last set, but I wanna focus on the form and just keeping reps consistent. I don't care about slowing stuff right down, like slowing the reps so slow, because I find that it starts to impede on my actual performance and energy. My goal is to just get deep, create that tension, explode out. I guess technically trying to minimize the amount of resting I'm doing at the top, just to kind of keep, obviously, as much tension on the muscle as possible. We'll do another set there, probably push to 12 reps. Got 10 there. It feels pretty good. And yeah, I think I'm gonna catch my breath. Come on. All right, we're gonna go heavier. Got 12 there. My counting skills are accurate. And I think this is gonna be the last set. We're just gonna do 3 working sets here and 3 working sets on the sort of squat leg press thing. I keep saying that. It's literally called a squat press, but it's a leg press. Okay, I need another plate, but it's going to match. Matching plates only. All right, guys. For the form on this hack squat, now this is gonna go across the board for all your quad focus squatting, pressing type movements. The most important factor is you want to get that range of motion and you want to get that knee traveling over across your toes. Now, I know some of you watching, might be fearful of having your knees track over top of your toes because, for the longest time we've heard putting your knees over your toes is unhealthy for your knees. Having them behind your toes is much healthier for your knees. Whatever people say out there online, but the truth of the matter is cool. That might be factual for some, but I think the vast majority of people with healthy knees can 100% take them over top of their toes or beyond and get that deep range of motion. Because the more you move that knee over top of your toes, the more knee flexion. So what I mean by that is the more my knee will actually begin to flex. This joint right here will start to flex. And the more I can bring this knee forward, essentially towards the ground, the more my quad is actually going to be lengthened or stretched. Thus, the more hypertrophy you're going to get, or at least stimulus you're going to get on the quads. This goes into my next thing. If you're not used to getting deep in this movement or in any of your movements, start light, take all the plates off, do literally no weight, and get used to the feeling of taking your body through that range of motion. What I don't want you guys doing is just going into the same weight that you always have been doing, not in that deep range, because that's when you're going to get injured. I believe that the minute you train past a range that you're not used to, or you haven't actually trained in and built up the strength, that's where injuries occur. But if you're constantly strengthening, your tendons, your ligaments, your joints, the muscles through that range of motion, the more mobility you're going to have, thus the more strength you're actually going to have through that range of motion, and the less likely you're going to get injured. So again, if you haven't done deep squats, maybe just start with just the yoga blocks under there, no weight, and just focus on coming down and sitting in the bottom and feeling what that feels like, and then pushing out of the bottom. This goes into the form. Once you've established your range of motion and what's comfortable to you, the focus is place your feet on this platform, and I want them low enough to allow the knees to track over your toes as much as possible, but high enough to the point where your heel isn't elevated. So all I mean is, if you have your feet too low on this platform, as you come down and as your knees start to go over your toes, you'll start to notice you might feel your heels come up, and then you'll feel all the pressure in your toes. I don't want you doing that. Reason being is you're going to put a lot more tension basically on the, Achilles tendon, your calf, and also your ankle's going to feel it, your foot's going to feel it, and then your knee will actually feel it. And you won't feel it as much in your quads. I mean, you might, but those are going to be the limiting factors first. So you want to have your feet high enough up so that your heels don't elevate, and low enough to get that range of motion. The next thing is still on the feet. I want you to make sure that all the pressure is through the mid of your foot. Okay, so I don't want, again, the pressure to come up onto your toes. I don't want you having all the pressure on the outside of your feet or your heels. I want you to try to focus on flattening that foot, pushing the arch onto the platform, creating as much surface area, spreading your toes. If you have to take off your shoes, take off your shoes. But you want to create as much surface area with your feet so that you have more stability in the actual movement. And you can actually have more force output too. Next, as you come down in the movement, I'm not going to actually show you because I've got 5 plates on. So when I do the set, you'll see. But as you come down in the movement, I want you focused on, pushing knees forward. Okay. Obviously this is as low as I can come before I fall through this crevice. But as you come down, you're pushing your knees forward. And then as you push off the platform, I want you focused on actually pulling knees back, almost like you're doing a leg extension. So as you push up, you're pulling knees down towards the ground, squeezing your quads. Okay, this is a quad dominant movement. So I want you to focus majority of your attention and majority of the tension in your quads. Lastly, keep that chest up, keep your hips pressed against this pad the entire time, even in the bottom. If you start to feel your hips rounding off the pad too much, you might actually be going too low. That's too low for your body. So again, figure it out, play around with lighter weight, get to know your body, get to know your range of motion, but most importantly, be stable, keep your feet flat, and then as you push up, focus on, pulling and squeezing your quads, okay? Control, control, control. Last set here. Okay. Come on. Come on. Okay. That's it. That's it. That was the last set. We're going to move on. Okay. Big and strong. That was a warm-up set that we just did on this squat press. Okay, I'm using this backrest here. My gym has like 3 or 4 of these just floating around, which is extremely beneficial and convenient because I find this machine, the resistance profile of it is fantastic. I just find without this pad, I'm not really getting the range necessary that I feel for this movement. For me, that would be beneficial. So I'm using this pad. Again, same thing as the yoga blocks I used over there for the hack squat. It's the same thing. I'm just getting deeper range of motion. So if you're someone with shorter legs or pretty good mobility, I have pretty decent mobility in my knees, ankles, and hips. I am not tall, but I'm 6'1" if I'm rounding up. But I find I can get really deep range of motion on this. So again, I highly recommend using a pad. Okay, we're gonna do 3 working sets here. Same process that we did over there. I might pyramid up to heavier weight. Rep range is going to be 8 to 12. First 2 sets might be a little closer to that 12 rep range. The last set will definitely be failing around that 8 or 10. Okay, first set. Come on. We're gonna stop there. Fuck. Oh shit. Okay. Got a massive fucking cramp in my abdomen. One of those workouts where you're struggling internally. All right, we're gonna go heavier. You know, like I've done, 8, 9 even, I think even close to 10 plates on this, but I don't think I was using, well, with 8 plates I was definitely using the pad, but when I get closer to 10 I don't think I was using the pad, so I wasn't going as deep. And like in my mind, having only 6 plates on but starting to feel really fatigued around 8 reps, it's kind of humbling, and it kind of makes me feel like I'm regressing. But the reality of it is, I'm not. I'm working in a deeper range than I'm used to with a weight that my body's just not used to in that deep range, right? What I'm trying to say is, to just not get in your head, right? Sometimes when you try new ranges of motion or try a new exercise or a variation of an exercise, it's easy to compare sort of resistance or load with a load that you're much stronger at in a movement that's similar. All that is just the ego. Like, you just strip that away and just focus on the task at hand. And the task at hand is getting deep, focusing on that range of motion or focusing on the variation or the type of form that you're using. So don't worry about, going lighter. Try not to get in your head about it because that's going to affect your performance in the actual set. Then you're going to start to feel weak. Then when you go and do the set, you're going to be like, fuck, I suck. So, I mean, that might be an extreme example, but these are just the things that I think about too sometimes, right? Second set. Come on. Come on. All right, guys, we got our third and final set coming up. I'm undecided if I want to go heavier and push it for six reps to failure. I think I'm only getting like 8 reps. I'm just really tired. So the form for this, what I want you guys thinking about, same exact thing over at the hack squat. Okay, have your feet lower on the platform. Same concept. Make sure heels aren't elevating. Put all the pressure through the middle of your foot. The goal for this, I want your knees to come over your toes again, because we still want to hit those quads. Now, with this excessive deep range of motion that we're getting, I say excessive because I'm using this pad and my knees are literally going behind me like a pretzel, but we are going to get, you know, a deep stretch also in the glutes. Now, if I have my feet higher up on this platform all the way towards the top, I'm going to be primarily working those glutes, which is completely fine. If that's your goal, bring your feet all the way to the top. But if your goal is to kind of work in between both quad and glute, or maybe a little bit more quad bias, keep those feet low on the platform. Control every rep, control that eccentric, but still, you know, don't control it too much where you're actually starting to impede on your performance, but control it where you're not like necessarily just bouncing so aggressively. Obviously, as you start to fail, you know, you might kind of use a little bit of momentum out of the bottom, but the point is to just control. So we got our last set coming up. I think I'm just going to stay at this weight and try to push it for an extra rep or two. And last but not least, is these handles. I want you gripping the handles and pulling on them as hard as you can to keep your butt and hips down. As you come down, I don't want your hands to be, you know, some people will assist by using their hands on their knees and push through there, but you're just doing yourself, one, a disservice, because you're just going, in my opinion, too heavy if you have to use your hands to help. And then two, you're risking yourself sliding up the seat, or you're risking yourself an injury due to the lack of stability. So you want to keep your hands on those handles and just pull yourself into that seat. Pull your hips down the entire time. You're going to get more force output and you're going to be a lot safer. All right, enough talking. We're going to get focused. Come on. Fuck. Stupid fuck. Ow. Oh my God. All right, guys, third and final set here. First and foremost, for the form, I want you guys to set this machine up that best fits your body. So what I mean by that is, first, you want to make sure that you adjust this whole pad up so that you can work in the deepest range possible. Okay, so set it to the setting to bring this pad all the way up to the top. Two is I want you to actually adjust the distance of this pad to sit somewhere above your ankle joint. So somewhere in between your calf and your ankle, okay? Next, you want to bring this pad down, this leg pad here, or sandwich it all the way down as far as you can on your quads the entire time. So I want you to really just push your leg against this pad and this pad to keep yourself stable and locked the entire time. You don't want your legs to be moving around at all, because you're going to lose stability and you're actually going to lose a lot of force if that's the case. Now, in terms of the actual execution of every rep, when you bring this, I'm actually going to lighten it up for this demo. Okay, so I'm sandwiching my legs into this so they literally can't move around. Next, I want to make sure that my knees are pointed straight to the ceiling, okay? So I'm not keeping my knees flared out like this. The reason being is the knee joint is a hinge joint, meaning it just works in one direction, okay? So I want to make sure that my knees are pointed straight up to the ceiling so I don't create any sort of what's called a shear force, where my joint is in one direction, but the actual motion of the movement is in another, if that makes sense. Or the force, sorry, is in a opposing direction as the actual joint. So you want to avoid any sort of shear force. Next, as you initiate every rep, I want you focused on driving your knees, or your top of your quad actually, into this pad to initiate every rep. So what I mean is, as I go to pull down, I'm actually pushing my knees up to create a counter force, and then I'm focused on driving my heels back towards my hamstrings, almost like I'm trying to touch my calves to my hamstrings. Control every rep, come up, get that deep stretch by squeezing your quads in the top here, getting that full range of motion, and then again, driving and pulling your calves towards your hamstrings. Now, last tip obviously is to, either push against this to brace yourself, or you can even lean forward, pulling yourself, with these handles to create more of a stretch in your actual hamstrings, okay? All right, I'm gonna increase this weight, and then we're gonna do this last set. Come on. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna do some burns like hell. We're gonna do some leg extensions and then finish off with a cool new machine for hyper extensions. So, see you there. All right, to finish off our quads, we're finishing with leg extension. Now, I absolutely love this Prime Fitness leg extension. We actually have one in the other room that we're just in the gym, that is plate loaded, which is great because I can actually take the seat, the backrest off that one, and use one of those back pads that I used earlier that we have floating around the gym, and I can set that on it, but in more of a declined, or technically inclined, but you know what I mean, where I can actually, sorry, I guess more reclined, because I can lean back. I can remove the pad that's upright, lay one down, so I can actually lay down on it, but that one in the other room was used. So we're using the next best one, which is the selectorized one, but unfortunately we're limited with the range that we can move that seat back, because the goal again for this is I want the seat far enough back, as you just saw in the video for the first set. I want to be almost leaning back as much as possible to create as much length in that rectus femoris quad muscle. Another reason why I like this one is two main reasons. One, I can adjust this cam here and I can make it more, mid-range bias, which is pretty much every other leg extension, which I have it set to because that's what I want. Or I can make it more of the beginning range or the end range, or actually somewhere in between. So that's pretty cool because you can customize which sort of resistance profile you want to target. But for the sake of this, I want to keep it more in that mid-range because I just want to train the muscle more efficiently, overload it more efficiently, if that makes sense, because typically we're going to be strongest through that mid-range anyways in terms of our actual muscle. Now, second reason why I like this is I can adjust this actually past the 1, so at technically like 0, which will push this pad the furthest back as it can possibly go. Now again, the reason that is that's the reason that's great, is that's going to give me the greatest amount of knee flexion in this movement, thus allowing me to work in the deepest range possible. So I can get a deep stretch in this actual movement, which is awesome. That's why I like these Prime Fitness ones. Second set here, I'm using these wrist wraps just for greater stability to hold me into the actual machine, so I don't have to have my grip becoming a limiting factor, or if my hands are sweaty, I'm not worried about them slipping. So I'm using these straps to keep myself stable and pulled into the seat the entire time. Come on. We got one more set. We're gonna go full stack plus the little 15-pound increment. This is going to be the last set, and this is also going to be the part of the workout where most of you, myself included, tend to fall off. We get tired, we get fatigued, our mind, you know, turns to mush because we're so exhausted. If you've been working hard, that is. If not, then you don't apply to this. But generally speaking, towards the later half of your workout is when you start to lose focus. You know, you start going on your phone and stuff. So my point of what I'm trying to say is to remain focused. Okay, get off your phone, stop texting, limit the talking as I'm talking, but remain focused. Okay, last set here, and then we got one more exercise. Good. Oh, fuck. That's it. Oh, shit. As you guys just saw, I'm using this booty builder hyperextension. This thing is really cool because it's got a built-in pulley system and it's selectorized, so I can just hold onto that handle, set it to any weight that I want, and perform a, you know, hyperextension, glute extension, things like that. Exactly the same as a free weight one if I just did it over there. So if you don't obviously have this, because this is a pretty unique piece, just do a free weight and hold on to, you know, a 45-pound plate, 2 of them, or even a barbell or something, or dumbbells, doesn't matter. Now for the form, I have this pad set up lower on my hips. I'm driving, actually I keep a slight bend in my knees on purpose, just because I find if my knees are locked and straight, I tend to feel too much pressure in the back of them, and that becomes more of a limiting factor. So if I have them slightly bent, I find I can actually engage a little bit more of my hamstrings. It's less of a stretch through the back of my leg, but I can engage more of the hamstring and still the glute, obviously, but focus on pushing into that pad as I come up, right? So I'm actually driving knees and hips into that pad, squeezing everything at the top, and then coming down, controlling that eccentric, but going for that deep stretch right through here, right through the center of my hamstring. Okay, last set. Oh man, that's it, guys. All right, guys, that is it for today's leg workout. I think for the next leg day that I'm going to film, I really do want to incorporate a bit more glutes. I remember one of you asking if I can do more glute focused stuff, and I actually want to for myself. So we're going to get after that on the next video. But if you made it this far, remember, you guys are real ones. Thank you so much. Now, before you go, remember, stay focused through the whole workout. Get off your phone, stop talking. Don't worry about what others are thinking or doing or saying. Focus on doing the best you can. But most importantly, as always, continue to work hard. Be diligent, be intentional with your movements. Take it easy, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you, guys.